And to day two or day three, I'm sorry, I can't even count anymore, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a great day. It's already been an amazing day, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Welcome to day three of the opening of the International Mandela Effect Conference. It is an absolute honor and pleasure to have every last one of you here. I know you're still filing in the door. We're going to take a couple minutes to go over the technicalities, if you will. Then we have a huge, gargantuan announcement coming up, and then we'll get to our first speaker. This, guys, I'm telling you, every day just keeps getting better and better. We had some amazing moments yesterday, behind the scenes even, and with the chat. We had some very incredible moments and synchronicities that happened. I'm not going to go into those without the permission of the people, but let me tell you, there's magic happening this week, and it's all around. But before we get started, I must give a disclaimer. The content that you are about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe place to express thoughts, ideas, and information. The views and opinions expressed by the individuals in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of the speakers, all the speakers, the organization, or its affiliates. I'm going to repeat that. The views and opinions expressed by the individuals involved in the following program do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of every speaker, nor the views and opinions of the IMEC organization or its affiliates. Our first speaker coming up today, guys, is our Vice President of the International Mandela Effect Conference. That is Mr. Christopher Anatra. Mr. Chris Anatra is the president and CEO of a computer software technology company named NECS Incorporated. He started this company in 1990 and was the original programmer for a computer application to manage the day-to-day needs of food service distributors. Let's try that again. He was the original programmer for a computer application to manage the day-to-day needs of food service distributors. Got it that time. Nailed it. He began to notice that discrepancies in customers' data, including the names of popular food service items, were changing or disappearing. This led to his investigation of the Mandela Effect and quantum physics. He is currently starting another business venture named The Quantum Businessman, which speaks out about Mandela effects, our holographic reality, and how we can navigate it for the best life experience. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, with timeline paradoxes, the 1986 Space Shuttle Challenger disaster, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Christopher Anatra.
Hello, my name's Christopher Anatra. You know me as the Quantum Businessman. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the president and CEO of a computer software technology company named NECS Incorporated. Did you think I was someone else? For over 25 years, my company has been creating software for the unique needs of food distribution companies, the businesses that get food to your local restaurant, grocery store, and school. In July of 2019, I became the first company CEO to speak out about the Mandela Effect and how it was affecting my client's business. So what did I do? I made a video about it, and here I am today. Believe me when I tell you that if you asked me a few years ago if I'd be making presentations like this, I would have said, no way. But the Mandela Effect kickstarted an awakening process that has been fast-tracking me to information about our reality that I had no idea about. Information that I am passionate about sharing. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. Prepare to have your consciousness be expanded in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to part 2 of my International Mandela Effect of 2020 presentation titled the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster, a timeline paradox. Thank you for watching my first presentation on Father's Day, which I titled Moon Angel. It was about astronaut Gus Grissom, the man selected to be the first man to walk on the moon. That entire presentation came about when putting together this presentation about NASA and timeline paradoxes. It was about the love of a strong and nurturing father for his children. It was about how revelations we may learn in the future can make us uncomfortable and challenge our long-held belief systems. Let's fast forward to the 1986 Space Shuttle Challenger disaster and the topic of a timeline paradox. The concept of a timeline paradox will help us better understand how our reality works. In 1981, the first space shuttle, Columbia, was launched. Space was on everyone's mind. Then, 5 years later, on January 28th, 1986, this happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd planned to speak to you tonight to report on the State of the Union. But the events of earlier today have led me to change those plans. Today is a day for mourning and remembering. Nancy and I are pained to the core by the tragedy of the Shuttle Challenger. We know we share this pain with all of the people of our country. This is truly a national loss. 19 years ago, almost to the day, we lost 3 astronauts in a terrible accident on the ground. But we've never lost an astronaut in flight. We've never had a tragedy like this. And perhaps we've forgotten the courage it took for the crew of the shuttle. But they, the Challenger 7, were aware of the dangers, but overcame them and did their jobs brilliantly.
Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
And now, a timeline paradox was created. What is a timeline paradox? What is a timeline? Did you know that timelines are becoming the featured storyline of movies, television series, and books? It seems like the concept of timelines are everywhere lately. Timelines fit perfectly into how our holographic reality works and aspects of quantum physics. You can think of a timeline as a list of events in the order that they happened. You could think of it as a movie that tells the story of an event and the people and places connected to it and how they reacted. Next, what is a paradox? A paradox is something that breaks reality rules. It leads into a loop of can't be, but somehow is. A timeline paradox is an instability in time. Can't be, but somehow is. As is the case with the 1986 Space Shuttle Challenger crew. Could they truly have been killed in the explosion when there are those now alive with the same names, nearly similar birthdays, and appear to look exactly the same? How can that be? How could they have been killed yet somehow appear to be alive? They also have careers that are in no way related to science or NASA. This is a mystery that has sparked the imagination of many within the Mandela Effect community. How could this be? Are these people doppelgangers for the original crew members? Was the Challenger disaster a hoax by NASA, as some have claimed? Were the astronauts truly on board when it exploded? I say absolutely yes. I will not speak for any other NASA mission, but this one, yes. It's important to tell you up front that this presentation is not going to go into the specifics of each Challenger shuttle astronaut crew member. That research has already been done by many. I invite you to look into this for yourself. And it's important that we all respect these individuals and grant them privacy. I will explain why as we go forward. 1986 was a very dramatic part of time. There were counter chess moves forward and backwards in time. A hairball in time was created. And we had more United States rockets exploding, rockets which were known to be carrying spy satellites into orbit. Less than 3 months later, at Vandenberg Air Force Base in April of 1986, the Titan 34D rocket carrying a KH-9 spy satellite exploded. A few days later, a Nike Orion rocket was launched, which exploded. Then in May of 1986, NASA launched its Delta 3914, which exploded shortly after liftoff. Just recently, in 2019, CIA declassified documents revealed fears that Russia sabotaged NASA during the Cold War and was to blame for the US rocket explosions, including the Challenger shuttle explosion. The Cold War was at its peak and tensions were running high. If the Russians were involved, this could have been the spark to ignite World War III. At the very least, it could have ended the cooperation between our nations with the International Space Station and beyond. Fortunately, it was proven in the information released in June of 1986 that a faulty O-ring was the cause of the Challenger explosion. When the Challenger was launched, it was only 18 degrees Fahrenheit in Florida, which was unusually cold for a Florida morning. This caused the O-ring to freeze and later malfunction when the rockets went to throttle up.
At the time of the Challenger launch, I was the director of the Space Shuttle Solid Rocket Motor Project for my company, Morton Thiokol. We produce those two large solid rocket boosters that are strapped to the external tank that provide most of the thrust for the system to put it into orbit.
Morton Thiokol, who built the solid rocket boosters, were very, very worried about the very cold temperature.
The team will be looking for ice or frost that may have formed on the tank or engines during the fueling process.
They were planning to launch the shuttle at -2 degrees centigrade when the coldest launch to date had been at 12 degrees centigrade.
I saw these huge icicles hanging off of the fixed service structure, off of the orbiter, off of the tank, off the solid rocket boosters, and I figured, they're not going to launch this thing today. No way.
The pressure was NASA had to prove it could launch every month of the year, cold weather, warm weather, that they could have a schedule that was reliable. And so not being able to launch on January 28th, 1986 was kind of a big deal.
The Russians were off the hook, but safety issues at NASA grounded all manned flights for almost 3 years. I needed to explain that situation so you could first realize other motives. The motives of a dark faction, a faction whose objective was to enforce the global narrative story that makes space seem dangerous, to use fear to cause humans to stay in their cages, stay away from that escape hatch, to make us afraid of getting to space. They observed our reactions to the event and tried to influence that. They tried many other things, including rituals. This dark faction had a total of at least 18 plans, which were all uncreated and stopped. Do you see a pattern emerging between the fire death of astronaut Gus Grissom in 1967 and the fire explosion Challenger disaster?
And you get a well-trained crew and you go fly.
I hadn't talked to you yet. I'll see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, how are we going to get the moon? We can't talk between 3 buildings. I can't hear a thing you're saying. Alright. Again? And how are we going to get the moon? We can't talk between 2 or 3 buildings. Hey! Oh, so far in the call script.
A ritual sacrifice, the same as what occurred on September 11th, 2001 in New York City, when almost 3,000 people were killed in what some have called a ritual fire sacrifice. Why? To gain favor to invade Afghanistan and Iraq, to obtain and control ancient founder technology and artifacts. I'll talk more about ancient founder technology in a moment. Did you think it was for revenge for the Twin Towers? To kill terrorists and their families? Or for the oil? No, it was for the ancient technology. And by the way, do you remember the Marriott World Trade Center Hotel? It was a 22-story hotel with 825 rooms, which connected the Twin Towers. I certainly do not. It opened in July of 1981. Now, I live about 90 minutes from the World Trade Center area, and I visited many times and rode all the elevators to the top of the building. And there was never a hotel there. It was just an open plaza. So this is a major Mandela effect for myself. What about you? Back to the Challenger explosion. This dark faction influenced the launch to proceed, even though the freezing cold temperatures that morning should have raised safety issues. The launch should have been canceled, but unknown to this dark faction, they would be creating a timeline paradox. How? Are you ready for a revelation? The Challenger crew was made up mostly of founder beings. What is a founder being? How would you know a founder being? First of all, a founder being emits a very unique frequency of energy by the biophotons of their body. It could be described as a foundational or root energy. What are biophotons? Photons of light generated by your biology. You are emitting them right now from the electricity produced by the mitochondria in each of your cells.
Our bodies run on energy. Even as you sit watching this, your body is generating enough energy to power 7 10-watt light bulbs. Most of that energy is provided by tiny structures called mitochondria present inside our cells. These mitochondria are the powerhouses of the human body. They take fat, sugar, and protein from our food and combine it with oxygen, converting it into energy for our cells and tissues, such as brain and muscle. Mitochondria have their own DNA that's crucial to this energy conversion process. This is different to the DNA found in the nucleus.
Without them, you wouldn't exist in this frequency, and no one could see you. Not only are we in a holographic universe, but you are technically what is called hard light human DNA technology versus soft light technology. You are hard light technology. Now, back to what a founder is and what a founder being would be when their consciousness is in a human DNA hard light technology. Founders are the dreamscapers of different earth realms. Founders are a similar concept to the founders of a company or business. Founders of the earth, the solar system, the galaxy, the multiverse, time and space, and beyond. Not much is known about them, but many of their artifacts, ruins, and technology have apparently survived the ages. Much of it has been located in the Middle East, such as Iraq and Afghanistan. Founder artifacts like the monolith of Phobos have immense scientific value and are seen as belonging to the entire galactic community. The best way for me to further explain to you what a founder is would be to liken our experience here on Earth to a game. The most expansive, role-playing, multiplayer game in the universe. One that is so superior that once you enter it and are given amnesia, you believe the experience to be real. Using this analogy of a game, a founder would be like a system administrator. What is a system administrator? A system administrator, or sysadmin, is a person who is responsible for the upkeep, configuration, and reliable operation of computer systems, especially multi-user computers, such as servers or even a quantum computer. A founder or system administrator who entered the game with amnesia, yet has a lot of influence. You can't just take them off the timeline when they're needed to be there, because if you do, you create a paradox event. I will say this, one of the astronauts is a very powerful spirit. They all are, but one in particular. This person is anchoring in our timeline, and their existence marks the highest timeline potential for us. That person is known as a galaxy protector and a timeline protector. Just having them on this timeline makes it a quadrillion times better than without them. Those astronauts needed to be here. Those founders needed to be here. And it's also what Earth wanted, and she had the final say. So what happened? After these astronauts perished in the explosion, Earth authorized other versions of them that were running in other timelines to be brought into this one. Those other versions of these founders or sysadmins were having other experiences in other timelines. They may have had slightly different names or born on a slightly different day. They were not astronauts in these other timelines. They chose other career paths and made very different life decisions. If you were to approach any of them now and accuse them of being one of the deceased astronauts, they would probably get really pissed off, because the person who you're talking to was actually not one of those astronauts. It was a version of them. They were brought here and inserted from another timeline with the authorization of Earth. Did you have any idea where this was going? Now you have an understanding of what is a timeline paradox. These are the types of revelations to expect more and more as humanity enters the age of the Great Awakening. And don't you want to know? Aren't you hungry for more information like this? For example, how do you feel about Mandela effects regarding our solar system? If I were to ask you, how many of the planets in our solar system have rings, how many would you say? Just Saturn? Actually, now 4 of the planets in the solar system have rings. They are the 4 gas giant planets of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And we've known about these rings for hundreds of years. For example, the rings of Uranus were observed in 1789 by famous astronomer William Herschel. Do you know about the local fluff? Our solar system, which is enclosed in the heliosphere, is traveling through a nebula or interstellar cloud known as the local fluff. It is a very dense area of the Milky Way. It has a high concentration of hydrogen and helium atoms that shouldn't be there. I know the Milky Way galaxy with its local fluff is really starting to sound like a candy bar. Why do I mention this? Because I believe that our solar system is in the process of exiting from the local fluff. We are moving from a very dense area of the galaxy to one that is lighter, which supports a higher frequency. Our exit from the fluff marks the start of a new age. The age of Aquarius, the age of the Great Awakening. Welcome to the new age. And keep your seatbelts fastened, because we've got more revelations on the way. So there you go. The Quantum Businessman isn't just about business or talking about the Nazis and their negative timeline insertions. I also explain timeline paradoxes and the founders. It has been an honor to be part of the International Mandela Effect Conference of 2020. And I salute all of the other speakers in this conference. We all bring a unique and different point of view to what is happening around us. And all of these points of view can only help us grow and expand in our knowledge, our consciousness being expanded. To discover more about this brave organization, please visit imec.world. Thank you.
What an awesome presentation, Christopher Anatra. Wow.
Thanks, Shane. I appreciate that.
So it's so funny because we talked a little bit ago about the 501c3 thing, and then like I guess moments after we hung up, it came through. Is this? Yeah,
actually, what happened was we were talking about it, and then there was mail that was put in my mail slot, and I'm like, oh, a letter from the IRS. This looks fun. Like, how many people want a letter from the IRS? And I open it up, and it's like, we'd like to tell you you've officially gained your 501c3 status. So I'm like, wow, that was great news. That was
High five.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Chris did a lot. Yeah, thank you, Chris, for helping pull that together.
Oh yeah, that's good. So people too, not like when people make their donations, keep track of it because it can be deducted from their taxes. So
that's huge. Huge. So that actually, when you're self-employed, which a lot of people are with their gifts of, service and whatever, they can actually donate all of their taxes to 501c3, and it's like completely deductible, right?
Yeah, I don't want to speak for what all the
right. Yeah, of course, there's all the rules, but
talk to your accountant.
but I think it's a better deal to choose where the money's going. I always thought that's a plus.
Yeah, exactly.
So I did get a couple of questions from the chat. Let's see. Question: why do many MEers have ties to Masons, NASA, military, or the alphabet letter organizations, myself included? Could we, unbeknownst to us, be part of the latest Montauk or Pegasus-like experiments?
I'm supposed to answer that question.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important because a lot of people, these things cross their mind, and then on the other hand, somebody asked a question about our acronym IMEC, about microchips or whatever, and I was like, no, it's really important that I say very clearly that we're not associated with any microchipping or anything, right? So, because a lot of people believe that that the plans have to be revealed or said out loud, or you can't lie about them or whatever. So I like to just be right up front and let people know, at least if you believe that, then you can trust what I'm saying when I say that. There's nothing nefarious going on, right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Not that we're aware of, anyway. So a serious look into, have you guys considered whether, this could we be the ones included in the thing or excluded, the ones that it isn't working on, if you will? Have you guys kind of thought about that?
Yeah, I can start with that. I just want to, before I do though, I want to make a big point for everybody that's celebrating like we are, that we are finally today officially a 501c3. Thank you again, Chris and Shane and Dark Wolf and everybody, Lauren and Kimberly, that we've all had a big part in that. But the thing about International Mandela Effect Conference is we are all about asking questions. We are not saying that any one of us or any given presentation is telling you what to believe. We're not doing that. So the chat room got a little hot today. So I just want to point out.
We need Jerry. He's the one that takes the hot seat so well.
But I think it's important to realize that everyone has their point of view. Everyone's point of view is valid because people don't knowingly believe something that is a lie. So even if you believe that someone's believing something that's a lie, they don't believe it's a lie because they believe it. And, that's their valid point of view to believe that until something convinces them otherwise. So to name call, to feel like that you've got all of the answers and there's no possibility that you're wrong in your view is kind of, it's not being open-minded at all. And it's not probably maybe the right setting because this is a really open-minded group. We like to ask all of the questions and we like to consider all things, but we like to do it in a very nice way and not be rude or name call or anything.
Thank you. Right? Okay, now I'll address Jen's question because I love it. That was a good question by Jen's Gems. I wrote it down. Also, I'm going to repeat it because we went to the side for a minute. The question is, why do many Mandela-affected people have ties to Masons, NASA, military, and or the alphabet letter organizations, including myself? Could we, unbeknownst to ourselves, be part of our latest Montauk or Pegasus-like experiments? And I'd say anything's possible. My father served briefly in the military, but the military is a pretty big influence in America. It's huge. So if you try to avoid that, it's almost impossible because so much of that's just So then you get causation versus correlation. Having said that, though, I think there may be something to it. Because when you look at with the UFO phenomenon, if Jerry was here, he'd be right on it. He'd say, you know what? UFOs showed up right when all of those atomic bombs started going off. And Stephen Greer says that the UFOs, the ETs, will not allow our atomic weapons to enter space. They will shoot them down, which they have done apparently. So having said all that, I don't know. That's not really what we're out to explore. It's a great question, but I don't have an answer. It's just, yeah.
And I would say that maybe it's just all of those things are far-reaching. Like I had a cousin that was in the military. I've had uncles that were in the military. My dad passed me down like a Mason's Bible. Like I don't ever remember him going in any meetings or whatever, but you know, I'm sure it was lower level stuff. You know what I mean? But you could say I have ties to all of those things, which I really don't. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think it's just those things are so nested throughout our communities, you know, in one way or another, that it's bound to be a connection there.
Yeah, and I'll just add to like my point of view. Like I don't feel like I'm connected to any of those. In fact, I try to go against them. Like I'm always like trying to bring up information against the global narrative to show that there's more going on than what we're aware of or what we're allowed to know. So that's my point of view. And you know, talking about timeline paradoxes, people were commenting like that doesn't have anything to do with the Mandela effect. But in my opinion, timelines and the Mandela effect are directly related to each other. And then the whole concept of a timeline paradox. And for me, how it explained, you know, what happened with the Space Shuttle Challenger and that type of thing, why are these people doppelgangers, you know, et cetera. Like it resonated with me. So it may not resonate with someone else, and that's fine. But there's things that other people on the chat and so forth will feel passionate about, and I might be like, I'm not sure about that. But yeah, as long as we're respectful and we keep an open mind and we consider that there are other things at play.
Yeah, I totally agree that timeline paradoxes are 100% Mandela effects, if you ask me. And my talk tomorrow will be about some of that, not all of that. What I love is that these talks complement each other. So the idea of the timeline insertions, if you start thinking about the things I'll talk about tomorrow, really think about it. Ask questions. Don't assume that you already know everything. That's where really great insights come from.
Exactly.
Let's see here. I was looking at some more questions. I had one from Helen that says, could it be possible that we have shifted over from a globe to a flat Earth? That's from the Frosty. What do you think about that?
From a globe to a flat Earth. Well, you know, obviously, I think people realize that I believe the Earth is a sphere, and I believe the moon is a sphere and the sun is a sphere. But I also believe that people that are really passionate about the flat Earth concept, in a way that's actually good, because they've already begin to realize that reality is not what they were taught it is, and that there's more deepness to it. So as far as a globe to flat Earth concept, I really can't comment on that. Besides what I just said.
Okay.
Yeah, in my book, Reality Shifts, I talk about flatland, which is different than the flat Earth. And the reason I bring it up is because of the dimensional thinking and the challenge to ourselves, to ask questions, to think, what would a 5D reality look like? What would a 10-dimensional reality that some physicists say is required for us to have a theory of everything? What would that feel like? What would it look like? What kind of topographies would we witness? And you know what's fascinating is if you look at that flat Earth concept, I showed just a flat plane yesterday, a piece of paper. If that's just a 2-dimensional surface, if you're thinking everything's flat, like it could flat Earth, whatever, of course you're going to be able to see Mandela effects, because that would be any object that's 3D going through. Your plane of existence is going to look like it came out of nowhere. So if you're taking a flat Earth point of view, I would encourage you to start thinking 3D. And if you're already thinking 3D, I would encourage you to start thinking 5D and beyond. That sounds new age, but it's also new physics. So I think the answers are in the best questions we can possibly ask. So look deeper always. That's what I'd recommend.
Yeah, and sometimes too, like the way I've pictured it in my mind, like if you were to take a 2D Earth, maybe that would have a flat appearance. And then for me, like from third dimensional to fifth dimensional is a sphere. And then I start to see things change into like a donut shape.
Yes.
I can't explain that. And then when you go beyond like 10 dimensions, it's like a double donut, and it becomes almost like sacred geometry.
It is. Yeah.
Everybody keep your minds open, because there's different ways you could look at things. And yeah, so.
And we know
ballot perspectives.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't use that term. I can't even remember it. NP something. I don't really go for that idea, but if you think someone's not paying attention, usually it's because you don't think they're asking questions, right? So let's not do that. Let's keep asking questions respectfully.
Keep asking questions. Absolutely.
Okay, let's see. I've got another question. Gosh, I need to go back and get the name, but it's one of the problems I have is that we have no actual photographs of the Earth or any other planets. How do we know that the artist didn't just add the rings or their own interpretation of the planets? And I'll go back and get the name while you are answering that.
Yeah, I believe that one of the spacecraft, a couple of them flew by. You could find pictures of like Uranus, for example, from one of the Voyagers, or one of those unmanned flights that went out that actually had like documented that. Maybe in the mid between 2005 and 2010, something like that, from what I remember. Mm-hmm. So there are like actual things besides what was spotted in the 1700s through the telescopes that they had at that time.
And we could add to that also that some remote viewing has been going on for thousands of years on this planet. And some of the ancient cultures and civilizations have been keenly aware of things that we were only recently able to prove and ascertain in the sky and astronomically. So before we ever had photographs with our cameras, we had people remote viewing the planets, recognizing what the solar system actually looked like, even recognizing how many planets we had, and so forth. So, and then when you lay that side by side with the evidence that comes not just from NASA, but other countries' space programs as well, we're not the only ones with NASA. The United States is not the only spacefaring civilization by a long shot. So if you look at all of the collaborative insights that we've had from people around the world, look at the Dogon in Africa, for example, and they knew about Sirius. They knew what was going on. And how could they possibly have known that? Yet they did, and it's been proven true. So I'd like to point these corroborating facts out as well.
Awesome. And I like to add that you can take like a P900 or P1000, and if it's properly focused, you can actually see the rings of Saturn with a camera. You don't even need a telescope or anything. And there's actually, if you don't want to buy the camera, just go look on YouTube. There's great YouTubers that have them. And I thought they were looking through a telescope because the images were so awesome. But you can see the rings and all of that. So people are actually taking photos from the ground, whether they're looking at some sort of hologram or screen up there, or if they're looking into deep space, that's up for you to decide. But there are images people can take. You can do it yourself at home. I wanted to add that.
Right.
Okay, and that was from Imaginationary Man, and let's see, this one's from Nachiketa, and it's let's see. Again, how does one determine what NASA says is true and what they say, or what is lies? If they're 100% true or not? Do you believe that they actually went to the moon, Chris?
I don't like these hot seat questions. Having technical difficulties. Like I said in my Moon Angel presentation, like I believe that 10,000 years ago plus, Atlantis had technology. The Vimana of ancient India had technology to like leave the planet, so to speak. I believe that when I look, I believe that that we did go to the moon, maybe once or twice, but it's a very interesting thing because the global narrative does not want us really leaving. They want to keep us here for their own purposes. So go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay. I actually knew Ed Mitchell. He was a friend and a colleague and a mentor of mine. I trust him. I've met him personally on a couple of occasions, and I really do. I've had dinner with him when he came out to California. I was about to interview him on my radio show, but then he passed away, unfortunately. He wrote lots of emails to me. I'm mentioning this because he was not a mainstream thinker. You might think he was, but if you read his books, then you'll see he believes in the power of what you might call the placebo and the Mandela Effect. He was very much a supporter of the work I was doing. He saw my book, Reality Shifts. He enjoyed it. I believe that he did walk on the moon. And I believe the reason why, here's this, because so much else that he was doing was going right up against the mainstream consciousness. He was saying that 0-point energy exists. He was saying that everyone in that small town of Area 51, where he came from, where he grew up, he said they know that things were going on there. And that's not popular to say back when he was telling me these things in the 1990s and so forth. So because I knew Edgar Mitchell, I would say I trust and believe him. But also he told me, he said, this is amazing that in my lifetime I can walk on the moon. My grandfather was crossing the United States in a covered wagon. Look where we've come in 2 generations. He said things like that to me. I can feel when people are lying, and I don't feel like he was ever lying to me. And why would he when so much else was so out there? So that's just my 2 cents, and you can take it for whatever.
Thank you. I know I haven't been to the moon, so I'll speak for myself.
Okay, I think possibly it could have been faked and then they went later or whatever, because I do think some of the evidence for it being faked looks pretty convincing, but I can see why they did that with the whole Cold War thing going on and all that. So it makes sense why they might have faked it, but I think we probably went later on. That's my opinion.
I've seen some of the things that they took to the moon and brought back, the little teeny tiny souvenir flags. They were auctioning them. It was for a fundraiser for IONS when I went to that dinner with Edgar Mitchell, and I saw some of that stuff. It looks genuine to me. How would you even know how to fake it? How would you know what kind of UV radiation to blast a tiny little flag with to make it look like it had been there? That's crazy stuff. It looked real to me. And This is, I've seen a lot of the TV programs on faking art. I don't even know how you'd go about faking that. All that stuff looks real. So yeah. I'm just saying.
Okay, back to the cool questions here. This one from Laura Lee. Do you believe the world is being nudged to wake up to the fact reality is not what we were taught in school via the Mandela Effect? Chris?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think to me, like the Mandela Effect is it. It's the thing that like makes you stop and be like, whoa, that doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't just happen once, it happens over and over and over. And it's like, sometimes when I talk to friends, it seems like no matter what subject we talk about, there's always a Mandela effect involved in it somehow. Like I could always like find something and be like, oh, did you know about this or know about that? So yeah, they're the big clues to let us know about reality and that we should look into it and take it to the next level. So yeah, I definitely agree with that question. Big nudges.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree as well. And this is something that makes a lot of sense when you, I think if people paid attention to the presentations we just saw yesterday, then obviously everything that Evan was talking about and Eileen as well, we've got a lot of agreement. And Shane, you too. I think what we're all agreeing on is this is a huge wake-up call. We're noticing something is happening, and then it starts as, once you look at it, then you want to know what is going on. And that's why I like to ask good questions, focus on the questions. Let's see where it takes us. What do you think, Shane?
I love it. I think it's an excellent tool. It was an excellent tool for me. So, and I'm not very observant. So if I can see the Mandela effect, anybody could see the Mandela Effect, because I doubt myself. I doubt my memories. That's why it took me a year. It was only something that wasn't a memory thing for me, the thinker, knowing, just looking at it, just seeing something over and over again. There was no way I could forget how it is, because it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't a memory thing.
And Shane, you noticed the flip-flop stuff with the or maybe residue with the thinker, right? Because that helped you.
Yeah, that's really strange, isn't it?
Yeah, you should talk about that photo with the people and,
Right, yeah. So one of the, I guess, most intriguing pictures I have is there's like 18 softball girls, probably around 10 years old or something, and they're all posing with their fist to their forehead, yet the statue right there that they're next to has changed. So they kept their pose, and the statue changed right behind them twice, actually, because it went kind of like this, and now he's kind of like sucking on his knuckles. So yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
How much time do we have here?
We got a lot of time.
Okay, awesome.
Our schedule, we got another like half hour before, I think. That's what the schedule is.
We'll keep those questions coming in, you guys, and put them in caps. I know we still have a few.
And this is a big opportunity. This is 3 of the board members here, so we can talk. I'd love to focus on Chris's talk, though, because I think the timeline paradox is such a big question. And because I don't know if Chris's schedule is going to allow him to come back tonight, so I want to make sure that we talk about some of the big stuff that came up yesterday about the timeline paradoxes. And yesterday we had a question come in that had to do with the idea that sometimes there can be slow changes happening and fast changes happening, or maybe 2 possible realities equally sort of vying for humanity's attention. Could you talk about how that operates, at least what you've observed so far, Chris?
As far as the changes go and how they are affecting people different ways depending on what they are.
Yes.
I'm not sure if this answers your question, but I know that some things really get people's attention, but it's like an individual type thing. So one thing that affects me like really, really dramatically may not affect someone else. And I feel like things are really starting to accelerate in all different ways. And one of the things I mentioned in that presentation was about the local fluff. Now, to me, that's a Mandela effect. I thought I knew a decent amount about our solar system and the heliosphere, but to find out that we've been in a type of nebula or an interstellar cloud for a while, and it appears that if we're not exiting from it, we're at least going into a much less dense area. And that's just allowing more, we'll call it light, to come in, more good things. And everything we see going on in the world around us, I believe, is a sign or a symbol of that as well. It's almost like, so we're like leaving a dense area going into a lighter area. You can almost think of it, I think of it as like a wave of purity that's starting to like wash over the planet, and just things that shouldn't be there or whatever. There's just going to be so many changes and like really good things along the way with a newer, higher type of consciousness behind it. Because like you see what people are talking about, they're concerned about this or that, whatever it is. And the thing is, it's like, how do you solve problems? How do you solve racial problems? How do you solve whatever injustices there are? And there's the 3D way of looking at it. And then I think what's going to start to reveal itself is a higher consciousness way to look at it, like looking at things from another angle that actually solves the problem. Versus putting someone in prison or having prejudice or, whatever the case is. So I think as time goes forward, we are really living in historical times. No matter what anyone says, like these times are really, truly going down in history. So I'm excited about it, trying to stay calm through it all. And, just like there's all these challenges in business as well. There's, like the way I see it is that there's, with all the money that's being printed and so forth, people finding it hard to get jobs, unemployment rates going up. I just saw something on the news this morning about in San Francisco, lots of people are just breaking their rents and just getting out of the city because the rents are so high and they're not secure about living in a city like that anymore. So there's all kinds of things, like people are starting to move where they live. And so there's all kinds of very interesting things that are going on. And I think we just all have to be prepared.
I want to go back to that local fluff. That's something new to me too. I don't remember ever hearing about that. And so you're saying it's a Mandela effect, the term itself, or are you also?
Well, for me, it's personal. Okay. It's personal for me.
And then in addition, like you would have heard about it probably.
I would have thought so.
Okay, and it's not something that they just coined the term recently. It doesn't seem like it.
No, I've seen like articles going back to like 2005.
Wow. Okay.
It. Yeah. Wow. And there's another cloud called the G cloud. Sounds like a rapper. I don't know. And the local bubble. And that at some point in the far distant past, there were all these supernovas that had gone off in this part of the Milky Way that caused the interstellar cloud. So I'm not an expert on it at all. I'm just learning and just starting to do the research on it. But yeah, it's very, very interesting.
It is interesting. And I like where you go with noticing that things are getting lighter. I like the similarity between getting into a less dense part of that so-called fluff that I've never heard about and getting some more light. I love it.
Yeah. We all need more light.
For sure.
Won't say no to that.
Okay, I got a question from My Life DIY. What does Chris think about the removal of organs for astronauts, and while under, does he think something could be going on?
Removal of organs for astronauts? I don't know. I'm not quite sure.
Okay. I just thought it was something that I wasn't aware of. So you're not aware of anything like that?
I don't know why they would remove their organs. I think they would want their organs, but I don't. Maybe that person could clarify what that.
Maybe it's a Mandela effect. Did they have to have some organs removed before they go to space and then put back in when they come back or something? Weird, like
the only thing I can think of is if they wanted to eliminate some sort of a possible problem when you're out there, like take an extraneous organ out that might go awry when you're out in outer space. I have no idea what they're talking about.
But I never heard of that, though.
I've never heard of it.
It's new to me.
Yeah. Well, the appendix can rupture. And if you're on the space station for a few months and there's no surgeon up there, then maybe as a precaution, they might require it. But I've never heard about it. I have no idea.
That would make sense, yeah.
I'm just asking.
We're speculating.
Questions.
So while we wait for clarification on that, I have a couple that are related from Morris. I live in a constant state of deja vu. Is it possible that is a side effect of timeline edits? And then the second question would be, do we know if people who are experiencing the Mandela effect have deja vu more often than others?
Yeah, so that deja vu is like really interesting, right? Because I think we've all experienced it. I've been experiencing it more and more lately. Like in the past, every once in a while, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm having deja vu. And then like lately over the last year or so, it's been like, I really remember that. Like we have had this conversation before, or I'm having deja vu right now. This question's giving me deja vu. But yeah, so you're becoming more aware of timelines and the multi-dimensional aspect of yourself, in my opinion. And you're remembering these things. My friend, Sean Bond, who's going to be on in a couple of days, he refers to it as remembering the dress rehearsal. And I'll let him describe that. But there are things, basically your memory is remembering things. So.
And I agree. I'll be talking about this tomorrow and from a physics standpoint with the ideas of physicist John Archibald Wheeler, who presented a lot of topics. I've already said in this conference so far, he's the guy that came up with popularizing it from bit, which is very much the whole idea of simulation theory. He also is the originator of some ideas about delayed choice, which means the future is affecting the present is affecting the past, which means we're going to witness alternate histories all the time. And even Stephen Hawking said we cannot deny, alternate histories and multiple histories. In fact, quantum physics forbids a single history. That's how strongly Stephen Hawking felt about it. But when you look at the fact, also, John Archibald Wheeler mentioned we're in a participatory universe. These are big ideas. So when you look at, we're participating, and remember, everything is consciousness, everything's energy. It's based on how we're projecting, focusing, and attending our thoughts. So our questions are pretty much everything. If you look at what your questions are doing, you want to make sure you're asking good ones, because you are going to start getting the answers. And I think with this local fluff and everything Evan Matreo was talking about, everything Shane has talked about, and Eileen, and now Chris, we're definitely set up to pretty much get instant manifestation to a level that a lot of us are not used to. It used to be that you'd have to train for years to become a shaman, to become responsible for what you're thinking. We're getting kind of thrown right into it. People that have not meditated, have not practiced, they're just suddenly noticing like, wow. And I think a lot of people are getting possible glimpses of having run this possible maze of life lots of times. And that way you can get thrilled like I was when I find out Shane is on our board of directors. I jumped for joy. I ran over and hugged my husband. And I know that was a future memory. It's like, oh, thank God, because we've done this so many times. And the only realities that work are when Shane is on the board of directors of IMEC.
Yes. Right.
No pressure or anything.
No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, but I get that stuff all the time too. Sometimes about how to avoid problems, and I'll get warnings usually a day in advance, so I have lots of time to deal with it, usually.
Yeah, and there's so many things interesting going on, like with the solar activity, with the comets. I just was at spaceweather.com, and I saw that over London, there are blue noctilucent clouds over London, which is the most rarest thing for it to be that far south of the Arctic Circle. So there's a lot of, and that's all from the solar activity. And yes, there's really, we're on so many levels, we're living in such interesting times.
So is that the clouds that at night when the sky's really bright and the clouds are sort of glowing, that's those clouds? Is that what those are?
Yeah. In this particular instance, they're glowing with a blue color, like a very bright blue. And I noticed that Sunday evening, like where I live in Connecticut, the sky was so blue. I have never seen the sky such a beautiful, beautiful blue getting towards sunset. And the clouds were just magnificent. I'm like, wow, this is so beautiful. I just couldn't get over it. So, and like I said, I've never seen that blue color before. So yeah, keep your eyes to the sky, so to speak. You never know what you're going to see up there.
I want to ask Chris another question, because we got him now and he won't be here later. So let's take advantage of the opportunity. Question is about, when did you first get started looking into these timeline insertions? And how did that grab your attention the way it has? Because it's so fascinating. And I don't hear anyone else talking about it the way you do. Positive timeline insertions, negative timeline insertions. It's a great idea. And once people get a sense of what you're talking about, and I think it takes a while sometimes, but once they get it, it's huge. It's like the blinds come off, they can start seeing like, whoa. And it's revelatory. So something like that must have happened for you, I would guess, but I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, because a lot of the things I started drawing conclusions and seeing things and so forth. But if you've watched my videos, you know that like the historical things really caught my attention. So I was beginning to look at things from the Mandela Effect point of view, where this is a change in our reality, to the point of view where this could be a purposeful change, insertion into our reality. So if you think about the possible holographic nature of our reality, I have to be careful how I phrase these things. When you start looking at things from those particular angles, and maybe look at it like someone editing a video, so to speak, and they want to insert something that wasn't there before. It's a complex thing that has to be done. But when you see it from the historical point of view, and you see that some of these Mandela effects to me seem to be clearly of a negative nature to bring forth a certain agenda. And then there's like Philip K. Dick talks about the other chess player who's bringing things of a positive nature to counter, and they're doing things forward and backward in time to get a certain result. So I began to become aware of it with more of the historical things, and I began to see that. And then I came across other types of teachings that were somewhat related to that as well. And I put all these things together, and it just all, for me, kind of flowed.
I'm so glad you brought up Philip K. Dick, and I hope you don't mind this, Shane, that I'm questioning Chris. This is such a big opportunity. I love the idea that you bring up with other chess player and Philip K. Dick. Now, you and I both know Philip K. Dick was very much kind of like a early father of the Mandela Effect. He was there
Absolutely.
way before most of the rest of us came along.
Exactly.
And what are your thoughts about some of his stories, like Man in the High Castle? Because you've done some work similar, but you take it farther than, I mean, he started it and you really run with it. So how do you feel like your connections with that material?
Yeah, because with Philip K. Dick, a lot of it, like he was, you look at it from one point of view and you could say, wow, he had a great imagination. Like how he could imagine these things is really like, that's superb. And then on another level, it's like, he's also remembering things from different experiences that he had. And, he talks about the situation that happened related to Watergate, for example, and how that ended the police state from manifesting, in the early 80s, so to speak. And when you start piecing these things together, like he did, you begin to become aware that he actually held knowledge that a lot of people didn't. And at the time, you can't just say these things. So what do? You write a book, and it's fiction or science fiction. And there's a lot of things that are out there that, that's just a make pretend story, but are actually more than that. So that's
absolutely,
he was actually masterful when it came to that. And I feel so bad that he was like looked down, like when he held that press conference.
Yes,
a lot of people thought he was just like lost it, so to speak.
You know what? His speech got butchered. Thank you, Chris, for giving me an unbutchered copy of it, because when you read that, and I've been reading his biography as well, then you understand Philip really did have a lot of true experiences like we do with the Mandela Effect, literally. And that's where a lot of his ideas came from. And what I also love that he had in common with you, Chris, and that's that love of freedom and the recognition that there is some kind of I think for Philip, it was the idea that the Romans persecuting Jesus, that construct is still repeating on our planet Earth. And so for him, that was where it began. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the Roman Empire, one of the original police states, so to speak. The Christians were back then like another viewpoint, freedom fighters, so to speak.
Yes.
So he said when he watched Star Wars, he's like, all I can say is deja vu. So, he definitely he brought that to light. He also brought out other timelines that were running where Christians, even in this era, were not viewed as they are now. Like now we view them as, religious, type thing, but it was more, a government might call them a bad name that they were trying to resist. But they really were for personal freedoms and freedom of beliefs, whatever they are.
I love that. I think that a lot of our ME community will resonate with that too. That, and we have people from all different paths. They're not all Christians. They're not, Mandela affected or pretty much every single type of person. Thank you for answering all those questions. I'm sorry, Shane, if you had something from the chat, we should go back to that.
Oh, no, that's great. So I have one from Dead GPK, who's been around as long as I know. Wonderful YouTuber with great images. Okay, so he has a question. Are timelines merging or splintering off? And I think that's a great question.
Yeah, I think that they're definitely the concept of merging and collapsing. So splintering off, I don't know. But from my point of view, it seems like they're merging and collapsing, and we're getting to to a timeline that actually is going to be of the most benefit for us. So,
do you have an opinion on that, Cynthia?
Oh, sure. Yeah, to me, when we come together and we go up like all of your Friday love stream that you do, Shane, which is awesome. Love it. So people should join in for that high vibe feeling. When you go that direction, then you're going toward that law of one that some people call, that, or whatever you want to call it, that vibe of love. And that's the merging. I think it's also possible to be splintering off. And those would be people that are experiencing like they're kind of going down. I was just tried out that Theta Stream app for the first time last night, and I did really embarrassingly well. I'm apricot. I made it to second place on the 60-second challenge. I'm like, I'm not trying to win a prize. So I got like, okay, I was just having fun with it. Then I checked the score, like, oh dear. So I am not trying to win the prize. I'll back off. But it's fascinating. I hadn't tried it before, and I love it. But the idea is, you know why I love it? I love to high vibe and then play the game, and then just watch what the score does. And it's just like, so I'm going high, and it was going high. It was going whoop, so much fun. The thing is, some people are feeling they're not ready to do that yet. They're not ready to go there. They feel like, no, they are doing this to us. I don't care who the they is. They'll point a finger at the simulation. I don't know who that is. CERN, not exactly clear. They have powers that be that they think are stronger than anyone or any god, which I think is interesting. But if you go that direction, then you're going to splinter off. And if you go the other direction, you're going to be merging. And that's my answer.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Juanito 1975 asks, can someone who astral projects frequently be a positive or negative insertion in the timeline? Could they be quantum jumping and cause a Mandela effect? It's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Because I imagine more people have already been talking about sort of going out of their body. So do you think people, with the whole idea of negative timeline insertions, do you think they could be inserting people in timelines to, I don't know, go out of body and make changes in that timeline?
Yeah, from what I understand, the astral version, the astral body, like we have light bodies. There's different like parts of our thing in our astral body can travel. I'm not an expert in this, so I'm not a good person to answer this question. So I don't know if we have access to our astral version, which leaves but can't disconnect because we have the concept of the silver cord. We could, just come back whenever we need to, kind of a thing. But I believe that we can cause Mandela effects, but not necessarily through astral travel. But I don't know. What do you think, Cynthia?
Well, astral travel, we pretty much all do it when we dream, but a lot of people don't have any serious effects because they haven't worked on their energy body, which would be, I do martial arts, so I practice internal ki. I've been doing that over 20 years. And what that does, just like a shaman, or if you could practice yoga, Tai Chi, whatever, all these things can boost your energy levels on the inside. When you do that, and then you astral travel, maybe in a dream state, or it could be through intention. And the question that Juanita asked is, these astral projection people are doing this frequently. I don't know that the frequency matters. What I notice seems to be more important for generating a quantum jump or a Mandela effect would be intention and really lining up what you need with what you love, with what you want, and being in higher service to your high self. When all that's a go, then you're right on track and you'll get all kinds of cool quantum jumps and Mandela effects. But the frequency of the astral travel, I think that's just a trick part of the question. I think one shot you could get it, so it doesn't have to be frequent. But maybe what what Juanita meant was this person is really good at it. So yeah, if you're really good at your focus, you definitely see personal Mandela effects. And if you're working in collaboration with a group, then you'll start getting these kind of timeline insertions that Chris is talking about. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I was just going
to ask Cynthia, how much, if someone is astral traveling, back to the positive or the negative insertion, don't you feel like it really has to do with their intentions if they're astral traveling? If they have positive or negative intentions, wouldn't that sort of guide their experience?
It absolutely does. And they also bring along all of their baggage, whatever they haven't yet cleared. So it's not necessarily theirs even. So if people are listening, like I can't even sleep at night. I get pulled down. That happened to me when I was a child. I was tormented because my house was, my dad was an atheist. My mom's an agnostic. There was no spiritual clearing. no shamanic clearing, no clearing of any kind of any energy in our house. I mean, my mom scrubbed the floors, and she was really, it's not that it was unhygienic, but energetically it was, and I was very sensitive. So I was having nightmares all the time. I had to learn to lucid dream at an early age to deal with it. So, which was a good thing, but it was strange. Where was the question going? I lost train. What was your question, Shane? Sorry.
I was just asking just our intentions. If we are sort of going out of our body a lot, the baggage, you brought up the baggage, which I think is really huge. Because if you're sitting there thinking the devil's after you all the time, that's sort of your worldview, then you're going to have the devil after you, right?
Oh yeah. And I've seen people actually literally manifest the devil, which remember, if you believe in the devil, what is that? It's only at the same level as one of the archangels, So even if you believe in the devil, so what? There are a whole lot of good archangels. Just start with Michael and include the rest. So.
Yeah. Amen to that. Okay. I got a good one from Patrick Roberts on our new timeline. He asks, this is the second day I'm trying to ask this. So they are changing our history to make it look, I'm trying to say this. They are changing our history to make it look like Germany won World War II. Hide your face, social distancing. What does the panel think? And this might be one we might want to revisit during the panel discussion. But,
well, let's get it. Chris is here now, and Chris has done great videos, really tailored to this.
So we want to make sure you get an opportunity. Right.
And if you haven't seen the Charlie Chaplin films, there's like a two-parter, right, Chris? Maybe you could plug those. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's negative timeline insertions. There's a part 1 and part 2, and then I did another one called positive timeline insertions, which features Philip K. Dick. So yeah, and a lot of it was all like about these Nazi events that I had never heard of before, especially like living in New England and all these people that were killed off the New England coast by U-boats and etc. So it gives the appearance that they are or had been trying to make a beachhead, so to speak, in possibly winning World War II. So, and then that goes into other deep questions such as what actually happened to the Nazis? Like, are the stories of them going to Argentina and Antarctica and elsewhere, are those true? Those are very interesting topics as well. But I believe that World War II did not end the way we were told it ended. It could have been more of a truce type of a situation. Like, I like the whole thing about Hitler killing himself. Like, I don't know, megalomaniacs, do they often commit suicide? I don't know. And is there enough proof to show that what they found was not a body double? But so that it goes into other, it's a deep subject. And I believe that it will be revealed more fully in time. I also feel that events have unfolded and things have happened in a certain way to prevent that particular type of police state to manifest here. I don't believe that's even a possibility, but I believe there have been attempts for that to happen. So, but it's a question that fascinates me. So obviously.
Love that answer. I don't have anything to add. That was brilliant. I would just say refer to Chris's videos, because I don't know anybody following this rabbit trail better than what you're doing. The Quantum Businessman is on it.
Yeah, and then it could go into other like you thought timeline paradoxes were interesting. Wait do you hear about other topics like the secret space program and those type of things that are like really, really fringe? But there's a lot of people that have like really, really strong memories of, interactions with these types of things. And were the Nazis involved with that? Were other organizations, as the United States Navy, have its own program, etc.? So that's a whole other subject as well that for now I think I'll stay away from. But there are all these. See, the thing is that once you begin to realize, okay, Mandela effects, like wow, like they shake you up. Then it goes to the next level. Like, what's going on? Is there more? Is there more than going on than what we're told? And if so, what is that? And did it just start, or has it been going on for like a really, really long time? And is there a lot of drama out there? There's a lot of storylines. There's a lot of this. There's so much that I believe that there's so much that we're going to learn about in the future that has been kept secret from us. And whatever I can do to reveal that, I will. Other people, we're all brave. We're all doing our own part in like talking about these subjects, even though they're not comfortable to be spoken about.
Well said. And I think we just have a little time. How many more questions are there, Shane? We could just pick a good one.
Hey, Jerry.
Let's see.
Or maybe Jerry's here to say
Guys,
something.
how we doing? I'm really enjoying this show so far.
Oh, you're hopping in here, Jerry. Okay, I appreciate it. Yeah, 'cause I was like, dude, it's like it's time. I mean, should I?
Not a problem. You guys want to go ahead and throw one more question out? I'll step back for just a moment.
Okay, let's see. I got one from Laura Lee, who asks, does it seem weird to anyone else the amount of money and research spent on space travel exploration versus the theory of human evolution? And it looks like she might have one more word on there that got cut off, but yeah.
The theory of human evolution. You know, my kind of feeling about that too is that there's going to be a concept that we might learn about called forced evolution, where, you know, in the fossil record, we see like jumps and starts, so to speak. And how did that happen? But when, boy, this is actually a good question, because it like leads to other things, like why are, you know, allegedly aliens abducting people or whatever they were, experiments or this or that, because we're so special. Like we are a special type of kind of DNA technology type of a thing. So that's a good question, and that leads to other subjects, but it all comes back to how special we are, and we only have 2 of our strands of DNA connected. When we get more, my feeling is that as things become lighter and we become vibrating at a different frequency, we'll have additional strands of our DNA that start to become activated, and then things are really going to start happening to us. It's almost like we've been handicapped in a way.
Excellent. Is Jerry back?
Oh, he was there.
Somewhere between here and there. Closer to there than here, I assure you. Well, congratulations, team. I know not all of us are here, but a good majority of us are here. Congratulations on the 501s. I am so happy about that, because that actually did come into question this morning in the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We were having a discussion about that. All of a sudden, surprise, the synchronicities, as we know with these conferences, rolled right into place.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I've heard a lot of stories of the chat having some incredible synchronicities over the last couple of days. What we've seen in Ketchum together as a group, we're seeing on a worldwide global scale, and I just cannot believe it. It's incredible. Chris, thank you so much for such an amazing talk and Q&A. We do appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Cynthia and Shane, thank you so much for moderating this Q&A. We very much appreciate that. Also,